Wascally Wabbit, or Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai if you want to be accurate, is a subtly brilliant exploration of adolescent angst with a supernatural hook that plays double duty as both a broad metaphor for the series' central message and a precise tool for focused character exploration. If you want to hear more about those aspects of its writing, I have a whole other video on the subject, but yeah, Wascally Wabbit is hands down one of the best written, best produced, best directed, and best acted shows of this year. Given how clever and layered the anime itself is, it should come as no surprise that its OP manages to pack in a ton of little details, Easter eggs, and bits of foreshadowing as well. Many of which you might have missed as you were involuntarily banging your head and singing along to Kimi no Se, Kimi no Se, Kimi no Se de watashi. Yeah, even I can't help myself with that one, but by channeling all of my discipline and focus into staring straight at the screen, I've managed to uncover some ingenious hidden details in this OP, and if I can stop myself from singing along for the next 10 minutes or so, it's my aim to share those with you. The opening starts off with a shot of Sakuta running full pelt down the side of the highway as cars and a trolley threaten to pass him on both sides. The distant perspective, along with the lampposts boxing him into a sliver of the screen, create the impression that he's almost running in place. His screen position barely changes, and he doesn't pass any significant milestones despite clearly putting his all into running, while the cars and trains all zip by around him with ease. This could have just been executed with a simple run cycle and it would have looked great, but they add a stumble in time with the ooh in the song that both adds a bit of visual variety and sells that Sakuta is running as fast as he can. I think this shot is meant to encapsulate how this show, or at least Sakuta, views adolescence, the sensation of putting in your all and feeling like you're barely getting anywhere as the world zips by around you, paying no heed to your struggles. That idea is reinforced when the train catches up to Sakuta and we cut to a shot of him standing stock still in front of a rapidly moving time-lapse sky. From there, we jump to the title card, a bunch of shifting tiles that eventually rearrange to spell out the name of the series, Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. But before they do that, the center line rapidly cycles through the titles of the other books in the Seishun Butayaro light novel series that have been adapted to form the plot of this anime. First, Rascal Does Not Dream of Little Devil Kohai, then of A Logical Witch, then a Siscon Idol, and finally a house-sitting little sister, before we land at last on Bunny Girl Senpai. The most important waifu in this anime, and also objectively the best one, don't at me, Futaba stands. Now here is where things start to get interesting. The next shot shows us Sakuta meandering toward his local train station, wearing his school bag like a half-assed backpack. This instantly tells us what kind of person he is. Laid back, a bit lazy, and not at all concerned with appearances. In the background, we can see a number of other people wandering around just out of focus, and their importance will become clear in a second, but before that, I'd like to take a moment to praise Wascally Wabbit for simply doing CGI crowds right. I could make a whole video about how this show uses depth of field and other tricks to keep its CGI characters from sticking out like sore thumbs, and I might actually do that at some point. There is some really great compositing going on in this show. But I'm getting off topic. Sakuta glances off to his left, and in quick succession we're introduced to the four girls at the center of each arc of the show, in the order their arcs appear. First, we catch glimpses of Koga and Futaba from behind, then we see an irritated sidelong glance from Nodoka and a cute smile from Kaede. In conjunction with four more panels that will appear shortly, showing the cold, logical expression of Futaba and the nervous face of Koga, along with the backs of Nodoka and Kaede, these shots give us an instant impression of what these four girls are all about. Their personalities carry through not just in their faces, but also in their body language and the way they carry themselves. But they're not the focus here, and neither is Shoko Makinohara. You know, because she's shown out of focus. I'm clever, okay? As Sakuta's first crush, Shoko is naturally on his mind a lot. We even saw her pop up in his dreams in episode 11, probably not for the first time. Her life philosophy that one's goal should be to act a little kinder than they were the day before clearly informs a lot of how Sakuta carries himself, and the way that she's shown here, hazy and out of focus, implies that this is a dream or a lingering memory. She keeps popping up like this throughout the OP, with her first 2 appearances mirroring the introduction shots for the other girls. Each shot of her has the same hazy, dreamlike quality to it, except for the later shots of the middle school age Shoko who appears before Sakuta and Mai in episode 6, since she's actually there, not just a memory. The implication here is that she's often on Sakuta's mind, intruding on his thoughts throughout the day, especially as the girls he knows remind him of her. Although there's one girl who can shake her from his thoughts, Mai Sakurajima, who we see for the first time walking in front of the same train station as Sakuta at the same time, as evidenced by the fact that all of the exact same characters are standing around in the background in the same places in both shots. So when Mai glances to her left, she's looking at Sakuta a few seconds after he looked at her. The cameras just happen to be angled so that the two of them are just outside of the frame for each other's shots, and that is very intentional. This is the opening for a romantic comedy, yet the director has taken pains to ensure that none of the main characters ever appear in the same shot with each other. Not even on the end card, which is normally supposed to be a group shot of the cast. Here we just see Sakuta eating alone on a bench, though the large space beside him, both on the bench and in the wider frame, implies that he's waiting there for someone, probably Mai. I think that this is done to create the impression that each of these characters is off in their own little world, dealing with their own struggles and having their own thoughts that are inscrutable to those around them, even if they're physically right next to them. Again, this reflects what it's like to be a teenager, taking your own journey into adulthood that not even your closest friends can fully understand. After we jump from Mai to the second round of character panels, we see a shot of her dancing in the bunny costume under the moon, which in turn fades to more shots of Shoko, because she's not out of Sakuta's head just yet. After that, we see our first shot without any of the main characters in it, and with another really well done CGI crowd of kids walking to school, which I would think is just a pillow shot if not for one key detail. As the students are walking, just one of them turns around to greet his friend as he runs to catch up, briefly going against the flow of the group around them. It's subtle, but it catches your eye by breaking up the motion of the image. It feels like he shouldn't be doing that, like he's breaking some unwritten rule, and that reflects one of the central themes of the story: characters acting out of order, resisting the atmosphere instead of reading it as they grow up and define themselves as adults. The next shot could be anyone's legs walking on the beach, but given that they're out of focus, it's heavily implied that they're Shoko's. Shoko once again fades away to be replaced by Mai, specifically her hands, which spread open as though presenting the moon to us as a gift. All this moon dancing might seem a little strange, but bunnies actually have a connection to the moon in East Asian folklore, as the spotting on the moon's surface is often said to resemble the shape of a rabbit. In one Buddhist telling, Sakra, the lord of the Devas, drew the image of a generous, self-sacrificing rabbit on the moon so that all could remember its kindness. So perhaps this is meant to symbolize the way that Sakuta etches Mai into his classmates' memories in order to stop her from fading away. Following that, we see a burst of action as the music picks up. Fireworks exploding, autumn leaves blowing, and a middle school-aged Sakuta throwing a punch at the air. This could either be a general expression of teen angst, or maybe his effort to fight whatever invisible thing was attacking his sister. Either way, we can tell that it's a moment from the past because, again, it's shot out of focus. After that, we cut to a different angle of Sakuta racing the train from the start of the OP. The closer side-on shot gives us a better view of Sakuta's exasperated, desperate face, and a stronger impression of the frenetic effort that he's putting into running, especially as he drops his bag and squeezes his eyes shut, once more in time with that ooh-woo. We get a sense that Sakuta's the kind of guy who won't stop until he has nothing left to give. Following this, we're shown a flash montage of the show's main girls in shots that foreshadow the supernatural phenomena to be visited upon them by adolescent syndrome. Mai, for instance, has her image blown out by the light behind her, while her reflection on the floor is faded and indistinct, just as she is slowly fading out of existence in the first arc of the show. Reflections also play a role with Futaba, though her reflection in the window is noticeably sharper and clearer, a perfect double of her, just like her actual doppelganger in the show. Nodoka is sitting on Mai's couch, and this basic instinct pose is very much in line with Mai's domineering personality, hinting at the body-swapping shenanigans that the two sisters go through. The cabinet containing all of her letters to Mai is also directly behind her. Lastly, Koga, who has the group chat with her friends that she frequently mentions open on her phone, is shown turning around, very subtly alluding to the way that she can turn back time. With all of them accounted for, that just leaves Kaede holding her two kitties. Without having seen her arc play out in full in the anime, I can't say for sure what's being foreshadowed here, but I think there's meaning in where she points her eyes after looking up from her cats. Her eyeline guides our eyes toward the two blanked out photos on the shelf behind her, which could be an allusion to her missing memories. She also looks off toward the phone on the wall, and from what we've seen and heard in the show so far, it seems like going on the phone and using social media is what triggers the spontaneous injuries caused by her puberty syndrome, so this could be a hint at that. Or at something that I'm missing now that will be super obvious in a week or two. After that montage, we hear the chorus pick up one last time and once more see Sakuta moving along the highway in time to it, though now it's at less of a sprinting pace and more of an exhausted, slow walk into a full-on collapse, once more in time with that ooh-woo. This is a reference to the end of Futaba's arc, of course, but taken in the context of the other chorus animations, it helps to paint that picture of Sakuta as a man who will run himself ragged to achieve his goals and help his friends. The heavy rain beating down on him is another extension of that oppressive atmosphere that I talked about in my last video, another symbol of the struggles of adolescence, and I think it's telling that we match fade from him collapsing under that rain to a shot of Shoko walking casually through a park carrying an umbrella even though it's a clear day. I think that the middle school age Shoko we see in the anime is the same girl that Sakuta had a crush on when he was younger, and that her puberty syndrome is keeping her stuck in prepubescence, so that she doesn't have to weather the storm of adolescence like all of the other characters do. I think that the umbrella, which we always see her carrying in the present, symbolizes how she's trying to shield herself from that. Even though we can clearly see that whatever storm she was facing has long since passed, and there are beautiful sunny skies above her that she'd see if she only let that umbrella go. Following that, we see a beautifully animated sequence of Mai dancing in the moonlight in her bunny costume one last time, framed by film strips that allude to her status as a movie star, but they also make her seem a bit distant. We cut away to a shot of her little sister in her body jumping for joy in the waves, and when we return, the camera has pulled a bit closer. That border is now partially cut off. And with one more quick fade, it's not there at all. We've pushed past that impersonal distance and the barrier around Mai and come closer to her as a person. This reflects her growing relationship with Sakuta over the course of the series, as he goes from being just her kohai to the one person she'll really let into her world. Speaking of Sakuta, we see him walking along in front of the train station again, this time later in the day with his bag slung over his shoulder in a slightly more serious and respectable manner. After a moment, he opens his eyes to look left, and the power of editing makes it seem as though this is done in response to the dancing Mai looking and smiling at him. If I had to guess, I'd say that he's not actually alone in this shot. He's probably walking home with Mai, who's just off to the right side of the screen where he's looking. After this, we see middle school Sakuta chucking his smartphone into the ocean. This was probably done to combat Kaide's puberty syndrome in some way, though I can't be sure. That shot kicks off one last montage of character shots, these ones done more for the sake of character appeal than any obvious foreshadowing. We see all of the girls basically just looking cute in locations that are significant to their character arcs, and cap it off with a downright iconic shot of Mai taking a shot at us in time with a drum beat and a line in the song about sniping. Finally, we come to that lonely end card of Sakuta eating his lunch and waiting for Mai. One last quiet subversion of our typical anime expectations that sets us up to enjoy a decidedly unconventional story. Wascally Wabbit's opening is playful, inventive, and carefully crafted to convey the pangs of adolescence in a novel and authentic way. In other words, it's a perfect companion to the anime itself. It's definitely one of my favorite OPs of this year, but is it one of the best? To find that out, you'll need to hold on a little longer and wait for my top list of the best anime openings of 2018 coming January 1st. Hopefully. Let me know in the comments below what openings from this year you'd most like to see featured on my list, and while you're down there, don't forget to hit the like button if you like this video, and hit the subscribe button if you want to see more analysis of anime and discussion of broader media topics every week. I'm Geoff Thew, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.